Good evening, everybody. I'll call the Board of Public Works to order, April 3rd, 2018. Notice has been duly posted. Roll call.
Mayor Chilson,
Present.
Alderman Ron Jertson,
Here.
Alderman Harvey Bertrand,
Here.
Jared Holter is here, Fred Bueller is excused.
Really, we're gonna let them get away with that? Teasing. I'm teasing. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
So move.
Second. Motion by Ron, seconded by Harvey to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Public input. Anyone wishing to give public input, please step to the dais, a podium, state your name and address, and give us your public input. You are limited to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Sue Colby-Fian, and I live at 1901 Cherokee Avenue in La Crosse. And I own Sue Colby Salon and Day Spa, which is located at 230 Main Street. And I'm just here to share with you, I think I have like a month's worth of information to give you in 3 minutes. So our challenge recently has been with parking and delivery trucks and neighboring customers, and our inability to allow our existing customers to use our parking lot. It's been a holy what a mess. We endured probably 9 or 10 months of construction work where, you know, they couldn't get the cement into the building unless they went through our parking lot with these huge cement trucks. We've got an entire parking lot that's completely destroyed. We were assured that once that was finished, everything would be peace, love, and joy. We've now moved to the opening of the restaurant where we had the Bud Light truck in the alley, and then we had the Absolute Vodka truck and the Crown Royal truck all in our parking lot, blocking all of our cars in. Nobody could get out because they, of course, had to make deliveries the week prior to opening. This is not ended that week. Just yesterday, I brought pictures to Jared of the Reinhardt truck and the garbage truck, and we can't get out of our parking lot. I've been parked in, our customers are parked in. It is not, you know what? We almost didn't get our site because our 12 parking spots weren't enough for our customer base. And we have a restaurant next door with an entire park next to them and no place for their customers to park, but in our parking lot or 2 blocks away across the street, and we're assured that the staff is telling everybody where the parking lot is. It's not happening. The drivers, we've been assured, have been informed or they'll lose their jobs. The staff has been informed or they'll lose their jobs. Nothing has changed. The owners of the establishment and the management will not communicate. They're parking in our parking lot, and our customers are walking 4 blocks away, and we're paying taxes on land that we purchased, on a building that we've built, and we keep trying to be better, not bitter. Is my 3 minutes up?
Pardon me?
5 seconds.
Thank you.
I think the commission gets the gist. Yes. Technically, I can't answer any of that during public input, but I think we understand.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Fian. I'm married to Sue Colby-Fian. We own Sue Colby Salon and Day Spa. We also own the Salon Professional Academy in Onalaska. And I'd like to start by thanking our public servants here for the job that you do. I've done some of that myself, and I know it's a thankless job. So, you know, we're here tonight because we've suffered financial damages. And, You know, we're trying to determine what our recourse is at this time. Our parking lot has been severely damaged. Our customers that are going to Sue Colby's cannot find parking. Our employees are being placed in very difficult conditions where they have to go out at night and, you know, ask people not to park in our parking lot, which often results in semi-confrontational situations. When I've been to the salon, I've had those same situations. A few days ago, Sue was parked in by a delivery truck, and he told her she was gonna have to wait to leave from the business that we own until he got done making his delivery. So we're very frustrated. I worked in the food business. I owned a bar and restaurant at one time. So I've worked with local government on a host of issues. When I heard about this project, was very excited. I'm all for development in our community, but it seems to me that the allowances for parking are insufficient. And I know they want to build a beautiful park there. I think it would be wise to consider asking them to put some on-site parking, because it's just not working. People are not willing to walk the long distance across 6 lanes of traffic to get to the building. So, you know, we're very frustrated. We came here tonight to let you know about our frustration. We've had numerous conversations with Dave Scogan even prior to the opening of the business. At one point, he wanted to pay us for the use of our parking lot. We told him, you know, we don't even have enough parking. Our customers, we have to make sure our employees are parking several blocks away to ensure that the closed parking spots are available for our guests. So we just want to bring this to your awareness tonight, and you know, we're trying to figure out, you know, what the next step is for us. And you know, of course, at some point, because we've suffered financial damages, we have to consider legal recourse. So we thank you for your attention to this problem tonight. We'd like to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to give public input? Second call, anyone wishing to give public input? Third and final call, anyone wishing to give public input? That portion is now closed. I'm just, Sue and Bill, just so you know, we can't respond to that by law or by rule. So it's not that we're not responding to you, it's that we can't. Consideration possible action on the following items. Public hearing regarding restricting parking along Mason Street. Jared?
Thank you, Your Honor. In your packet tonight, you can see a map that outlines the existing parking regulations of no parking along Mason Street outlined in red. This is in the 300 and 400 block of Mason Street. This is in the area of the LB White facility, Eagle Crest, and the YMCA. Eagle Crest had been in contact with city staff over the course of about the last year regarding parking in this area. When the YMCA facility was built approximately over 10 years ago, the no parking in red was instituted shortly thereafter. Their residents that live at the Eagle Crest facility have been having troubles with coming down their driveway and looking to their left to see motorists that are traveling westbound on Mason Street, and have indicated they've had a few close calls. With that tonight, staff has included in your packet on the map not only the red shaded parking, no parking, but also what we're proposing of the yellow shaded area. So we would actually make the 2 red areas on the north side of Mason Street one long no parking area. We have discussed this with Eagle Crest and the YMCA, and they're both in agreement that this would be agreeable. With that, open it up for public comments.
They are okay with this? Is that what you said?
That is what they have indicated, correct.
Okay. Well, let's open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this restricting the parking, please
I'm Deb Taylor. I'm the campus manager at Eagle Crest North, and I was the one that submitted the
grab the
proposal.
You need to pull it down, yeah.
Okay.
Bill was a
I'm
little
not tall
tall.
enough?
Bill would be okay.
Yeah. Submitted the proposal based on comments that I received from my residents and staff, because when they go down our driveway, and there's a slight incline on Mason Street coming from East Avenue, that it's hard for them to see oncoming traffic. Plus, traffic does go faster than the 25-mile-per-hour posted speed limit there, and there's been a couple close calls with them pulling out, and then there's a car right there. So, yes, this taking care of having a no parking between our driveway and LB White's driveway, I think would eliminate the danger or the hazard that currently exists. So, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to give or speak in favor? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in favor? That portion is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Second call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? That portion is now closed. The public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Harvey, seconded by Ron, to approve the parking restriction on Mason Street. Discussion?
YMCA and Eagle Crest and everybody out there is saying, fine, let's just,
Yep, that is correct. I have talked to Mr. Bill Sofers in the audience from the YMCA, if you'd like to confirm that, but he is in agreement with what we've proposed tonight. And Eagle Crest have not heard anything from LB White, but they did receive, mailed a letter, and it really doesn't affect their driveway a whole lot.
yeah, it doesn't affect those guys.
I do have a question for you, Jared. Right before that driveway going to Eagle Crest, there's a little bit of a mound there, right?
Behind the sidewalk there,
Right behind the yellow.
yeah, there's sidewalk down to the Eagle Crest property line. There's no sidewalk along the,
Okay, but there's a little bit of, is there no hill there at all?
there's a little bit of a rise, yeah, it goes uphill. That's on private property, though.
Is there a lot of trees on that rise?
You can see on the aerial photo that's in your map tonight, there's trees behind the trees start a little ways in, 10 feet in maybe.
I'm not real good at, I'm not very spatial myself, so.
I think if the no parking is removed, the trees won't assist with
Okay,
or hinder the sight,
Okay.
the sight line.
okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 5, public hearing regarding restricting 2 parking spaces along Main Street for handicap-only parking. Jared?
Thank you. In your packet tonight, I haven't included a map. We did receive a request from the David Ray's Restaurant of installing 2 handicap parking locations in the downtown. We basically randomly put 2 parking stalls, showed where they could go along Main Street. With the, we would have to put the handicap signage up, and then we'd probably paint the curb blue. Really, staff doesn't have a recommendation on installing or not installing, other than that there's no other spot in the city that we have in the city of Onalaska that has on-street handicap parking. There are a couple of other issues in the downtown area such as that aren't on the agenda tonight, but will be brought up at a future time, will be parking by the corner and most likely the parking situation that was described in a public comment in the alleyway. Those will be brought up at a further date, but tonight the agenda is noticed for the 2 handicap spots and possible addition of those.
I remember,
Well, hold on, I have to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? I'm sorry. I couldn't read your mind. Those wishing to speak in favor? Third and final call, those wishing to speak in favor. That portion is now closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. I see this as, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm Bill Feehan, 1901 Cherokee Avenue in La Crosse. And I just see this as part of a much bigger problem. And, you know, we've always had tight parking in the area. Those street parking spaces are spaces historically that have been used not just by our business, but by Maggie's across the street and a lot of other people. And creating a precedent here of creating handicap parking there, I think is a bad precedent. The bigger problem I see here is that there is not adequate on-site parking at David Ray's. And I think there's been a lot of work done in rezoning the old spillway location, et cetera. I would really like to have a conversation with the owners of David Ray's and the city here about creating some on-site parking, and that is the appropriate place for handicap parking. Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
James Benash, First District Alderman, 700 Westwood Drive, Onalaska. I don't see where one space on each side of the road is really going to accomplish anything regarding handicap accessible. And when we were in discussions regarding the Great River Landing, we added those handicap parking spaces across the street in order to facilitate the businesses, especially the new restaurant that went in there. I might suggest that instead of the park being extended on Irvin Street, that perhaps that would be a good place to put handicap parking as well as deliveries to avoid any further conflict with other businesses in the area. Thank you.
Sue Colby-Feehan, 1901 Cherokee Avenue. I know that when we brought our plan for Sue Colby Salon and Day Spa in 2001 to the city to be approved, we were required in our parking lot to provide handicap parking, and we did that. And I think if this is an issue that David Ray's has, then it's an issue that they need to address on their own property. And I don't believe that we have the real estate on Main Street within the city's jurisdiction to accommodate what that restaurant needs to be accommodating for their own liability. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to give to or wishing to speak in opposition? Second call. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Third and final call. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. The public hearing is now closed. What is the wish of the board? Harvey?
We have to make a motion in order to have discussion, right?
We do, yes.
Make the motion to approve?
second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded to approve the handicap parking stalls.
I have a question.
Now, Harvey.
Sorry? Yeah, I know we talked about this earlier, Jared, but there's nowhere else in Alaska that has handicap parking spaces on the streets. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have put out handicap parking for special events such as that. We've put them out for instance, at the school, when they've had a disabled teacher or something where we're trying to get them to come in a certain door. We've done specific things like that, but we have not assigned handicap parking to any parking stalls on the street.
And so I guess I didn't ask you today, is there considered in the industry standard practice, we might say, in terms of any guidelines, federal guidelines, state guidelines on such issues?
Well, the ADA rules that we follow would designate, prescribe, our code would prescribe a minimum number of handicap stalls when a new parking area is installed, but as far as on-street parking, I do not know of any.
And we don't know about the city of La Crosse, how they're handling that
I
issue.
do not know. I believe I have seen handicap stalls in the street in La Crosse, but I can't speak effectively on.
They do have a few,
I don't think there's many, but I think there are a few.
right? Ron?
I know we covered this with Dash Park and that restaurant in detail. And I do remember supplying handicap parking across the street to suffice his problem, but it did voice a concern that there wasn't going to be enough parking. You know, and Sue and Bill and Alderman Nash have pointed it out very eloquently here, that we don't need to solve that problem for them. And I've spoke to this before, but at the same rate, we got to be conscious of what the rules are on what we do need to supply. The precedent's kind of set here in Onalaska that we've not got any on-street. You know, Dave can do what he wants over there. We've approved much of the things that he's done, but these things could have been seen coming. I definitely did. You know, Sue and Bill have definitely, you know, and Jim's expressed the same. I don't feel that we're required to do it, that we should.
Yeah, and I hate to be insensitive to the disabled, but obviously, you know, parking there is a premium. That's the key. And I assume if there are no disabled, let's say in the facility or in the facilities down there, then those spots will stay open. And so I think that they're staying open means that some people are going to, you know, have to, you know, in other words, if they're open, those spaces are not being used, and I think that would be unfortunate. I'm not for allowing the handicap parking to.
On the street.
Yeah, I'm against that.
I'm one of the individuals that's capable of using them spots, and I tend not to use them when they're open anyways. And I think, you know, in severe cases where you may have an individual that's going to be there for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, we might consider something different, but that's not what we're looking at here. I'm definitely conscientious of supplying things for the disabled, but I don't think it's a good fit to do that out there.
Jared?
Just to repeat the motion right now is to
Is
approve.
to approve. That is correct. The motion is to approve, so if you don't want it, you're going to have to vote against your own motion.
But you have to call for the vote. Are you calling for the vote? Can I ask a question? How, we had no way to discuss the issue without, with that, so.
We are done, then we will
Yes.
call for the vote.
Yes.
You can also amend yours, or we,
If I may, you can vote against your own motion
Yeah.
and second.
yes, you can.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's what I was assuming, so.
Correct. Bringing
yeah.
it to the floor for discussion. I think simplicity's sake, if whenever you're ready to vote vote as desired on the original motion without amending it, so at least there's an action that could be taken.
Okay?
That would be the cleanest way to do it, yes.
Yep.
So, any more comments?
No.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. Okay. Item 6, review and consideration of frozen water lateral at 1216 Charles Avenue, including policy on frozen water laterals. Jared.
Thank you, Your Honor. In your packet tonight, I've included a variety of items regarding the frozen lateral at 2016 Charles Avenue. I have included a memo that I wrote out regarding frozen water laterals on March 26th of 2018. Also, John Wyatt, our crew leader, has written out a description of the events that occurred at 2016 Charles Avenue in relation to the frozen laterals at that location. I've included legal opinions from our legal counsel regarding frozen laterals. I've also included a bill and invoice from Bernie Buchner tonight, a Public Service Commission ruling that was very similar to what we have in our situation here tonight. And also, I've included at the very back the notice steps to prevent seasonal frozen water laterals that we do include with every October water bill that is sent to every user within the city, outlining what safeguards they should take in regard to the water laterals. So with that, this occurred on 2/27 of 18, toward the end of our winter season, a lot of frost in the ground. Our crew, staff members responded to the frozen lateral, took the meter out at the location, and then proceeded to use our hot seat unit to try and run up that lateral, and found that the lateral was frozen about 30 feet from the home. With that then, our crew leader, John White, who was on scene, contacted me, and we did call Bernie Buchner Incorporated to come out and thaw the lateral. And that is what we had done previously. We haven't had any frozen laterals for a number of years since the very cold stretch that we had a number of years ago, where they're very prevalent around the state. This location, the homeowner was absent. They were gone and had someone checking on their house. We're not running any water, so that's the reason that it froze. Couple things here tonight that I'm requesting. I'm requesting authorization to pay the invoice to Bernie Buchner of $1,612 to thaw the lateral. I did authorize the work based on previous experience of what we have done with frozen laterals in the city of Onalaska. Also, too, I would like to go over the memo that I've attached today that goes over future steps to take regarding frozen water laterals. So I'll just go through this memo quick here. It basically states that the city did send with our October water bill what the customer must do to ensure their water lateral does not freeze, which meets our Public Service Commission requirements with that. And with the Public Service Commission doing that function, we're not liable for a lateral that freezes between the curb stop or what we maintain to the property. We have also confirmed that with our city legal counsel, that in the opinions that I have attached tonight, that we would not be liable for that water service that's frozen. So the second paragraph is basically what I'm outlining would be our steps that we would take. I'm just going to read the second paragraph. City staff will respond to the report of a frozen water lateral, try to determine the location as best conditions allow. So we'd remove the meter, do whatever we can to determine the location if we find it's on our side. If it is, we would proceed to have it thawed out at a proper method. It would be very hard to do that, though. It's probably going to be the fact that we're going to find out that the lateral is frozen somewhere between the house and the yard. So if that, I'll go to the next line. If the lateral is thought to be frozen on the property owner's side, the property owner would be informed they must determine their next course of action and say will not participate in the work. So I equate this kind of to a sewer backup at your home. We do not maintain the sewer lateral going into the home, so you have to call someone to get that fixed and do that work yourself. Next line is if the property owner does determine that after thawing the lateral, the city portion of water level was also frozen, then the city will participate in the cost of repairs. So if there's something where it's froze all the way to the main, then we would have a little bit of liability and we would be, have to participate in it. Most of the laterals within the city and the city right-of-way are buried to the depth that they should not freeze. We have very few older laterals in the city that are, that we know we've got problems with. So the chances of the lateral freezing on the city portion are very low. I guess with that, I'd open up for questions and looking for guidance. I guess one other thing, if I can just chime in here quick, you know, we try to offer high level of service, so that's what we had been doing previously. You know, trying to help out. Our motto is we try and help a customer whenever we can. I think our staff believes in that motto, and that's what we've tried to instill in our staff members. But we still need to have direction and need to follow the proper protocols, so.
Yep. Ron?
I agree. We gotta draw the line where we're gonna do the service too. We're not taking care of sewer pipes, so we shouldn't be taking care of supply pipes. You know, and the problem is what did they make it out of? What's the condition? We've already been down this street once recently. You know, when you start handling, you got quite a bit of experience with handling old plumbing. You just look at it, you got problems. You fix something and you create 3 more problems. You got my nod on drawing it up as wherever the curb key's at. Curb keys usually are in Boulevard. So I think that would be the place to call the line from what I understand about it.
Mayor? Yeah, being an engineer myself, I'm black or white, nothing, there's nothing in between. I mean, at my house, there's a line at which I own, and there's a line at which I'm not responsible for. And the lateral, as I understand it, is my responsibility. And so, unfortunately, if for whatever reason the contractor's fault, or it's my fault, or whatever, I can't call on the city to remedy my situation. So I wouldn't be in favor of providing support in terms of somebody's lateral.
Okay, Jared, what action are you looking
I'm
for?
requesting approval to pay the invoice to Bernie Bookner in an amount of $1,612 for the work that the city staff did authorize to be done, and to proceed with the new frozen water lateral policy as outlined in my March 26, 2018 memo.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, I guess that's the right statement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Ron?
The bill to Buckner's, we're justifying paying that just due to the fact we didn't have a policy.
Correct. Well, we were following what we had used as our old policy before that. Our old policy was the first, what we had done previously was the first thaw was the cities, but between 2013, 14, the Public Service Commission came out with new language. If you put the insert, we've only done for a couple of years. So our policy did not keep up with what we were doing in the real world. But we haven't had this incident since 2014, so.
That's what I was looking for. Thanks, Jared.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Abstentions? So moved. Item 7, review and consideration of chemical storage tanks and pumping equipment for wells 7, 8, 9, and 10. Jared.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tonight I handed out a quotation proposal from Hawkins Water Treatment Group. This is for the addition of orthophosphate into our water system to combat the corrosion control program that we are being mandated to do by the Wisconsin DNR. I've also handed out tonight a January 2nd, 2018 letter, which you have seen previously on the Board of Public Works agenda regarding corrosion control. And we did approve at that time doing testing and a report by Process Research Solutions on corrosion control and what levels of orthophosphate to add to the system. This would give us the pumping equipment, the pump, the metering equipment, the tanks, the piping, and the installation of that equipment to add orthophosphate to the system. I'm just going to go through a little bit of the letter from the DNR dated January 2nd, 2018. Basically, that this department's recommending the city resume treatment for optimizing corrosion control. Reason for the recommendation is that your 90th percentile copper levels continue to be elevated and close to the federal action level of 1,300 milligrams per liter. Then down in the second paragraph, the voluntary water quality testing completed last year in case the orthophosphate treatment may be appropriate in optimizing corrosion control in Onalaska. This appears to be supported by studies that you've completed in the past. The city over the last 10 years has done a variety of studies that looked at our water quality, and these have been very beneficial in looking at the addition of the orthophosphate. With this, to add the pumping equipment as outlined at all 4 wells would be $30,225. Of this, this was not included within the 2018 operating budget because it was not anticipated that was going to be needed in 2018, so it was not included within that budget. We do have monies in the operating accounts that can cover these purchases within the budget that we have. Also with this, there will be 2019 budget impacts because at this time, we'll be adding the tanks, metering equipment, pumps, and things. We did ask the DNR to not include scales at this time, so we'll be taking manual measurements of the tanks on a daily basis and then including that within our SCADA system. So those prices would come forward with the 2019 budget to ensure that we would be able to meet the full standards, but we're trying to get started with what we have. The reasoning for this, also not only with the DNR letters, is Jim Prindle, our Public Works Manager, has been down at Madison. He actually attended a meeting with the DNR water engineer from La Crosse and discussed with the DNR officials that work on the lead and copper sampling protocols, and had a very good meeting down in Madison with those officials, and those are basically the drinking water supply chief and the lead and copper sampling person that's heading that program up on what we should be doing and what areas we are doing currently. With that, they'd like to get the orthophosphate added by June of 2018 because we try to add it to this water system when its temperatures are higher. So we can get some data, start getting things calculated out, get feed rates, and see how they affect the system with the work that Process Research Solutions will be doing. So with this, it is a non-budgeted expenditure. It will be, can be done within the 2018 operating budget that we currently are proceeding in. I really feel we need to go forward with this. Hawkins has done work for us in the past. They've supplied components to us in the past, have done work similar to this for us in the past. I think this is the next step in meeting the corrosion control needs. The addition of the orthophosphate will give us a layer of lining within our existing piping system that should facilitate lowering our copper levels that we test within the system. So I guess with that, I do have Jim. He's here tonight if you got any specific questions, but with that, I would ask for approval with any questions you may have.
Okay, Ron?
We've got plenty of time.
Excuse, don't we need to make
We
a
have to
motion
have a
first?
motion first.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion to approve by Harvey, seconded by Ron. Now you can go.
We've got plenty of time to get into compliance. They're not forcing us to do this yet, so the scales being in one budget year and the next budget year, it's gonna be fine.
Correct. They're willing to, the Wisconsin DNR, after discussions, is willing to work with us to minimize the budget impacts at this time, knowing that we will work our way into this and making sure that we are finalizing the route that this will be. So we only got to expend the funds we need to get it started. I don't think it's going to change, but if something would change, we're not out the whole amount. Plus with that, the We did perform lead and copper sampling in the summer of 2018, which is a 3-year, every 3 years we performed a sampling required by the EPA and administered and then required by the Wisconsin DNR. We did not exceed our action levels. We were very close, but we did not exceed them, so we are not mandated to have this done, but we are trying to be proactive, and the DNR sees our levels going up to that point that we feel we must be started now so we get enough data and we know by the time the next testing comes around, we'll be in compliance. And we want to offer the best quality of water that we can. I think this is a step in the continuing our tradition of offering very good water quality to our customers.
Jared,
Harvey?
you know, I want to read this quick. Directive of Wisconsin DNR and EPA regulations. What I think of is here's, okay, fine, they've said what they're going to say, but what I think of is common sense and I guess customary practice in the industry. And I think a practical question is, okay, you have the corrosion and you're concerned about the health effects. Okay, but also you're worried about there's an issue of the corrosion of the, you know, the pipe, et cetera. And I was hearing of some, I don't know who I was talking with, but some business in our city. I mean, their piping was corroding to a considerable degree. And so there's not only a health effect, but also there's an issue with industry or whatever, you know, well, the damage to the piping in it is what I'm trying to say. Is that true?
What we actually had some research we did a couple years ago. We had some failures of copper piping at Matthew Construction Company, and we actually hired Process Research Solutions to come in and study that area in length. What we found in that area was a lot of it was velocity related. They had a very intricate piping system due to some chillers and coolers and different things, and they had piping that was changing sizes and increased some velocities, and we found that that's what it was. There's a variety of things within our water system that our pH, alkalinity, hardness, things like that, that we have a very intricate water system, and we have not had any instances, I don't think, of anyone having anything really failing to the degree of going through the pipe wall, but we're just trying to make sure those minute amounts right now aren't getting into the system. 1,300 milligrams per liter sounds like a lot, but that's intricately small amounts of copper.
Okay. Ron?
The DNR lead study and our ability to get this installed, can we make sure that happens so they can get a good reading this year?
That's correct. Our goal is to get this, if you look at the Hawkins quote, they cite 4 weeks delivery. So I'm hoping that they'll have it delivered by May 15th. I'm hoping that they'll have it installed by June 1st. Is that kind of what, Jim, what they're thinking? So it's June 1st, we're hoping to have it installed. If we can get DNR approval to start adding at that point, we will start adding to try and get things moving and get the testing to the point. It'll take us a multitude of months to home in on what our exact feed rate will be, and that's the reason for a lot of the testing that you have approved in previous months.
So we're gonna try.
We're going to give it our best effort.
Thanks, Jared.
Harvey?
Could I ask Jim to come up and so I can
Jim,
ask a
would you
couple
come up,
questions?
please?
I'm not going to give you a break, you know, Jim. No matter how your arm's feeling. And just, can you give a qualitative feel or sense of how, oh, does he have to say who he is?
Just make sure before you answer that you tell us who you are so the transcriptionist can get it.
Name is Jim Prindle. I'm the Public Works Manager for the City of Island.
Can you give us a qualitative feel of potential effects on the body, human body, or, you know, in terms of the copper
Well,
going into solution?
Yeah, I think
there's a multitude of things that kind of go along with the copper aspect of it, as far as just our water quality, and that we can address by coating the pipes. I think with copper Wilson's disease, people that are sensitive to that, that have that, are sensitive to copper, they get nauseous stomach, et cetera. But I think
Jim, would you speak into the microphone, please?
this whole thing, you have an element of health aspect to it, but it's also driven by the fact that if we don't try something proactively here, ahead of the game before they come in and say, hey, you're out of compliance, we jump from 30 every 3 years to 60 every 6 months. So there's an additional cost in labor and stuff, and you have to take and sample those 60, and 2 segments have to pass. So if I start a 6-month sampling and I do 60, and they don't pass, then I start over again. I start the next round of 60, and then you have to get 2 consecutive sessions of 60. So there's a lot of different things that we have to kind of consider that way. It will help us with the alkalinity as far as what we're doing to the pipes, because we're not getting that off into the public's water by coating the walls with phosphate. That's really, we're kind of lumped in this thing because it's lead and copper. And our lead is very low. We don't have hardly any detects on that. But the problem is, that doesn't make any difference. We're in that lead and copper sampling protocol. So we have to address both elements. And ours, they're going to make it a determination whether we have what they call an aggressive system. And Jared explained the idea of the dissolved inorganics, the alkalinity, that we have higher stuff in our water to the hardness. So that kind of goes and works on the copper. But as far as the health aspect, it's certainly a lot more on the lead side of things. Unfortunately, we're low on lead. So.
Yeah.
Harvey brought up a good point, the health impacts of the lead and the copper are together. That's what we use to join. So it makes sense that they're going to run them together. But this ortho that we're going to be using to coat the pipes, do we know what kind of short-term, long-term effects that's got on our customers' health?
It's a phosphate, which is a detergent, basically. So what I've seen as far as, and maybe somebody has a different opinion of it, the people that I've dealt with, whether they're at the EP or the DNR or the private contractors, vendors that we've hired to look into this, all feel this is a safe alternative. One of the other things we could put in is caustic soda, which that's another way to deal with the copper, but then that raises our pH and it creates some issues that way. So that's more of a concern, I think, even for the handlers. So this is really the best way to go about dealing with that copper element.
Thanks, Jim.
Another question.
Harvey?
I'd hate to rely totally on what other people are doing or other cities, but I keep bringing this up, but would this be considered standard practice in the industry?
Yes, it would. And actually what happens is with the EPA, when we would go out of compliance, there's a chart, it's a flow chart where basically they give you direction for what you have to put into the system, how you have to react with it, how you sample. So you have their guidance, and the DNR actually implements their thoughts and works with you to make sure you go back into compliance. So their whole thing would be to go ortho with our situation of the alkalinity that we have and the different elements and the hardness and so forth. So that's our option.
So Harvey, I printed this out. This is the EPA guideline on optimal corrosion control treatment evaluation, technical recommendations for primacy agencies and public water systems. So this is a good quote here from page 13. Corrosion inhibitors. Orthophosphate is commonly used for lead and copper control. Polyphosphates, which are polymers, contain linked orthophosphates. Various structures used mainly for sequestering iron and manganese. That's what we used to do. We used to add those. They work by polyphosphates can also sequester, keeping the water quality, actually increasing risk. But the orthophosphates, basically, I like this. The sentence is basically orthophosphates is commonly used for lead and copper control. So the EPA document. I mean, that's what we see when we talk to other agencies. You know, we not only rely on the DNR, but we just had the Rural Water Conference last week, and obviously we're not the only ones that have lead and copper issues. There's actually a lot of places that have lead issues, and when you talk to people and they bring up things, or the DNR person's talking at the seminars, orthophosphates is what everybody basically describes as the tool that they are using.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. We do have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 8, review and consideration of bids received for four-wheel drive mower with cab. Jared.
Attached in your packet tonight is a bid for the four-wheel drive mower with cab. Tractor Central had the low bid of $28,387.59. That is with trading in the old unit and keeping the existing 72-inch mower deck from that unit and getting a new 60-inch mower deck to go with it, so we can also use it in the cemetery if we have to as a secondary unit. This was included for $30,000 in the 2018 approved budget.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Harvey, seconded by Ron to approve the Tractor Central bid.
Correct.
And what's the amount, Jared?
$28,387.59.
$28,387.50. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 9, review and consideration of professional services for water system, non-residential cross-connection inspections. Jared.
This is an extension, 2-year extension of the existing 2-year contract for HydroCorp. They have been performing our non-residential cross-connection inspections. These are Wisconsin DNR mandated for high-hazard areas to be performed on a 2-year basis. City staff does perform the residential and low-hazard commercial inspections. They do follow up with HydroCorp and assist with the city staff does assist with the follow-ups and ensuring that the program is followed out. Some examples of places that would be inspected as part of this are clinics, dentists, schools, restaurants, areas that have particular plumbing and backflow prevention devices that are beyond what we would normally see. It is staff's recommendation to approve the new 2-year contract extension for $17,112 to HydroCorp.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ron, seconded by Harvey to approve consideration of the professional services for water system, non-residential cross-connection inspection. Discussion. Ron?
Is the city in charge of letting these commercial entities know when they're going to be inspected and when they're in approval? How's that going to work?
The contractor actually coordinates the letters that go out for the inspections. Confirming that, Jim, that is correct, and I do believe that they do. So then they do the majority of the work. We do coordinate if there's a facility that's hard to get into or someplace we're having difficulties with because they're out of town. We will assist them in trying to get, for instance, there's a few restaurants in the city that have owners that are difficult to deal with, so we might assist in that way. But the majority of the work is done by the contractor.
Well, you also got places like St. Paul's that are secure facilities, and if you're, I'm speaking to a common experience on this. The more these facilities get more secure, the less that we're going to be able to accommodate a knock on the door. And all that I ask is that we kind of look at that and make sure that those kinds of things aren't going to happen again. A minor detail, as it might seem, it creates a cascade of events at places like St. Paul. I know because I was one of the deaths that was affected.
Yep.
Unintended, I'm sure, but we know that that's a potential.
Yep. And there,
I'm sure it's not just to that facility.
and there may be times where we may have to escort with our, as a city representative to ensure that, they understand that they're working for the city, or we may have to escort them along to get into certain facilities, but we do try our best to make sure that we try and schedule as many as they can when they're here, obviously, you know, to get them out, but they should be informing people before they come.
You know, the other situation is there's not a great deal of plumbing outfits right now that are doing these inspections. And that's something that we can't do anything about, you know, and the problem is, when you've got a part-time guy that's a part-time guy, and he's kind of the main dog in town, it backs the paperwork up, and these people out here are kind of hem-tied to fix it.
Mayor, we at one time did have a local plumbing contractor doing the inspections for a couple of years, but then their person that did those inspections, the master plumber that they felt was qualified to do them, they must have he retired, they must have decided they wasn't making enough money at that service, and they just disbanded it. We couldn't get them to do it anymore. So we haven't been able to find anybody on local level to do it, and that's part of the reason we're using HydroCorp.
Yep. Thanks, Jared.
Okay? On the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 10, review and consideration of bids received for 2018 pavement project. Jared.
Thank you, Your Honor. In your packet tonight, you can see the bid opening for the 2018 pavement project. We did have one bidder, Matthew Construction. The base bid of $1,084,867.65. Staff is recommending alternates 1, 3, and 4 be awarded with that bid to bring the bid to $1,184,065.45. In your next sheet, I have outlined a project cost and funding sources spreadsheet, and with that, you can see the base bid alternates 1, 3, and 4 to get to the $1,184,065.80. You can see the funding sources are the 2018 capital improvement budget for projects, and then we've also are using the last two projects are funding from paving for 2017 that was not utilized. Alternate 3, is for adding streets. We want to add Tillman, Johnson, and Lincoln Street to get those paved. Those were deleted from the 2018 capital budget for lack of funding, so we did bid those as an alternate. The bids came in favorable, so we feel that we can get those done with the funds that we have. We would recommend that we award the project to Matthew Construction in that amount of $1,184,065.80.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded to approve. Now, what's the bid amount here, Jared?
The total project award would be $1,184,065.80.
Okay, I got it, okay. I was just trying to make sure I had the right number. Okay,
Question, right? Oh,
but the motion has to be in the amount of $1,184,065.45.
That's the intention of the motion at this time.
Yes.
question, just a matter of curiosity. Do we typically have only one bid in these situations?
Matthew Construction is the only paving contractor in this area. Especially for doing this size of work. They're based out on Alaska, but they serve the whole west central part of the state. We have not had, in my 23 years here, we've never had another bidder.
And
Oh, hold it a minute, Harvey. I've been corrected that we do not have a motion on the floor?
what,
We do?
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah. I guess through your due diligence, regardless of number of bids and so forth, you feel that this amount is reasonable?
The bids that we received were less than the estimated costs that Kevin, the assistant city engineer, estimated. And when we compare those to bids that we see through the state DOT bidding for asphalt, they appear in line, and actually I think they're a little bit less. The bid we received this year is a little bit less than you'd see even on the state projects.
Okay. Anyone else? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 11, review and consideration of bids received for equipment for tandem axle truck.
I have handed out a bid tabulation this evening that was inadvertently left out of your packet. The tandem axle truck with equipment budget sheet is included in your packet tonight. First, I'll go through the equipment for the tandem axle that I handed out, the bid tabulation. We had one bid from Universal Truck and Equipment. The base bid was $105,582. Staff is recommending options A, B, and H to be added to that for a total cost of $110,076.00. With that, the option A is auto chains. That would have the trucks, when you flip the switch, you'd be able to have chains underneath you during ice conditions. Option B is a backup camera, and option H is a GPS unit installed on the truck that not only has GPS, but it keeps track of the amount of salt used, when the salt spinner's on, how fast it's spinning, and keeps track of what the truck is utilizing for resources, if the plow is up, if the plow is down. That is a new feature that we would be, this would be the first truck we'd be getting with that installed from the time it was built. I'll go to the project cost worksheet. We did already bid and actually ordered the tandem axle cab and chassis for $95,312. Then we have the equipment base bid, alternates A, B, and H for a total of $205,388. The total funding sources is $205,423. We do have the capital improvements funding for this truck. Plus, we have monies that we saved on 2 purchases last year for a tractor backhoe and a single axle truck. And then we are also using $1,000 out of the stormwater utility operating budget. When we received these bids, actually on March 20th, we had checked on the prices not more than a month before that, and we would have been within what we had for budget. But as you know, through the local government and what you've heard on the news, our bid went up $3,500 just due to steel prices in that month. We probably are fortunate we bid it when we did, because I think they probably went up even more after this date. But they did go up from what we had estimated at the beginning, and that's the reason that we are using some of the funding resources from last year and a little bit of a small percentage of money from the stormwater utility budget.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Harvey, seconded by Ron, to approve the bid of $110,076 for tandem axle truck, equipment for a tandem axle truck.
Question.
Harvey.
So we're talking about the tariff impact of, what, $3,500?
That is what we were informed, and that would coincide with what we had received for budget prices before the bid.
Yeah, and so, so when we approved our budget, we didn't anticipate that. And so I'm just wondering if you think we have enough cushion in our 2018 budget to offset any impacts of the tariffs.
I think with the funding sources outlined, we can make this purchase, and utilizing these funds saved on the tractor backhoe and the single axle truck from last year, plus the money from the operating budget from our equipment account, which we will maintain within budget on that account, even with this purchase. I think it would be prudent to buy the truck at the cost bid with the options, because I think these options that we're adding, I mean, obviously the backup camera is for safety. The GPS unit will be very beneficial to know what resources we're putting down and how we're using those resources when we're plowing snow. And the auto chains we're seeing more and more ice and less snow. It's just getting to be a safety item for our users.
Ron?
Are we replacing a truck or adding a truck?
We are actually going to, with this truck, it's replacing a truck, but we're not trading the truck, so we're actually going to be leaving the truck in stock, so we're adding a truck. So we're going to go from 7 trucks to 8. With this, the truck that will be, that this was scheduled to replace was a 99 Chevy. We're going to leave that, and one of the reasons we're going to leave that truck also is we can leave the chipper box on it. So we can still do urban forestry work during the winter time and not have to, unless we know there's a large snowstorm coming, we won't have to change it out.
With the GPS, it should be able to, in time, get more efficient with the product we're putting down is the idea.
That is the idea, is hopefully we'll be able to track exactly what, and actually this truck also, this bid specification was one better controller, because currently our controller, we can dial between 1 and 4 for salt usage. We've got more precise controls on this unit, so it gives us even more variability, so we can use more precise amounts of material.
Thanks, Jared.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 12, review and consideration of the 2017 Public Works Department Annual Report. Jared?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to commend Kevin and the rest of the Public Works staff for putting this together this year. We did try and stress the fact that we're trying to do the Public Works Department as a full Public Works Department, stress teamwork, sharing of duties, cross-training between employees. With that, this is just for information. I apologize, the pictures kind of got bleached out on the one that came out here tonight, but we will load this onto our city website, and/or if you'd like a copy, you're more than welcome. We can give you a copy of it, just for information to be put on record. I'll take over since the mayor's not here. Any more discussion on that item? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 13, review and consideration of sodium chloride road salt purchase for 2018 budget year. In your packet tonight, I have included 2 budget sheets regarding winter maintenance items during this last winter maintenance year. I have also handed out the winter road salt contract from the Wisconsin DOT, which was received March 30th. Was not able to get in the packet for the meeting, but did come out in time. One thing I'd point out is that we have to order our salt for the next upcoming winter season by April 18th of this year. That's the reason that this item is on the agenda. If you look at the sand salt daily usage log that's included within your packet tonight, you can see that we had 19 events before tonight. Today is our 20th event of the year. You can see different events with different amounts of snow, ice, tonnages of salt that we have used, and also salt brine that we put down during the year. With this budget tonight, I have outlined what the sand salt budget is in the street department budget, which is $77,105. The first sheet outlines a budget that would have 475 tons of early fill as part of the state salt bid, which would bring the city to capacity at their salt shed of 600 ton and the 1,000 ton shed. This is what we had at the beginning of the season. This is what we strive to do at the beginning of each season, so that way we are ready for the next season. We did have to, before we had the 1,000 ton shed, we built that about 4 years ago. A number of years ago, we had to go on the open market and buy salt, and it was over $100 a ton instead of the $60 to $70 a ton we receive on the state bid. So we've got 2 budget impact sheets here. If we do the first one and get the sheds full, we'd actually be at a $12,000 budget deficit. The 2018 budget on the second sheet would be a 300-ton early fill, which would be short of getting the sheds full, but we would maintain on what we have for a city budget for our sand salt for the year. It's staff's recommendation to fill the shed. Looking at our street department budget for the year, we are maintaining on budget in that account. Our overtime is not, has not been used at a high percentage at this point. It does always, I always look at the sand salt budget and overtime, things such as that. We've made it through January, February, March, where we have the majority of our snow and ice events. We'll have December yet to come in 2018. We were projecting this deficit in the sand salt budget for 2017, and we ended up as a department actually coming in at budget. So I guess I'd open up for questions with that.
Ron?
So to fill the the salt shed's completely up, we gotta go over budget to do it?
We would have to go over budget to do it.
How much? 12,000?
Projecting 11,985, correct. Yep.
And we pretty much used up our budget already.
We have used, at this point, we ordered our 500-ton regular and 218-ton reserve for 47,000. And we'll be having bills from the county yet for the salt, brine, and sand that we've used. So we'll be down to 25,465. If we order the 475 tons of salt, we'd be about $7,785 over budget. But we understand we'll be using some sand and some brine yet in December. So I got to project in what I think those costs will be.
Thanks, Jared.
Anyone else? Mr. City Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always a bit disconcerting when we look at having to go over a budgeted item this way. I'd like to point out, we did, as Jared stated, do it this year, but as a department, no transfers are required because the department came in under budget as a whole, even though in particular items we're over budget, we were under budget, and other items they offset. Can't obviously predict the future where we end up this year if we do the 12,000. I'd like to point out, though, that the 120-ton difference, if we end up going to the 12,000 in depth, beyond the budget, that usage can be, 1-2 day events, like happened in February of this year, used 165 tons of salt. If we have the 175 and we fill the sheds up to begin with right away, it does avoid having to go to market rates and do non-bid for, a February, March snow event. That's obviously we can't predict. So I do recommend, and I'm comfortable with, if you decide to go over what was budgeted for the salt purchase, that based on the experience we've had this year, that we will probably, as a department, come in at budget still overall, but I'd much rather have the tonnage of salt instead of having to go to marketplace, and then we know we're going to go over budget trying to replace the 175 tons.
Okay. So the item,
Staff is looking for a recommendation on how much salt
recommendation
to purchase.
to buy $11,985, or to go over budget by that much?
I guess if we authorize the 475 ton early fill or a 300-ton early fill is what staff is requesting direction on.
I make a motion to go with the 475 fill.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Ron, seconded by Harvey, to go with the 475-ton early fill. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 14, review and consideration of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources 2017 Stormwater Permit Annual Report.
Thank you, Your Honor. This report is mandated by the Wisconsin DNR, must be filed every year. Kevin works on this for our department. Looks a little different this year because it's a printout of a computer-filled form that we have to fill out on the computer. We are meeting the DNR mandates that this report calls out at this time. We have very good collaboration with La Crosse urban area on education. Basically, what we're looking for tonight is a motion to approve this for submittal.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion made and seconded, Mayor,
A motion by Ron,
and seconded by.
second by Harvey.
Right.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Item 15, the pay estimates. Jared?
We have the 7 pay estimates included in your packet tonight, Your Honor.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Harvey, to approve the 7 pay estimates. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved.
Motion
Motion by Ron to adjourn. Second by Harvey. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. We stand adjourned at 7:46.